Hello. I'm obviously doing this for the assignment, but I'm more here to educate than anything else. My two topics are topics of personal interest, both that I can confidently say that no matter if you think you see them every day, are still heavily unknown about, meaning we need to talk about them more. As you can see by the presentation name, I'll be talking about the POC and Pride communities respectfully. Now, you might be asking yourself, just what do these two random words mean? Well, I'll explain. For starters, POC stands for Person of Color. This includes everyone who is not a part of the white community that are commonalized in our society. Whether you're African American, Asian, North or South, Latino, Hispanic, Native, and more, you are welcomed. Next, we have Pride, or by its more popular name, LGBTQIA+. Anything of gender, sexual, and romantical orientation, and more, can be found here. Now, it's important to note that every orientation in the main acronym is actually just the major umbrella terms, and there are even more than just those. Why are they unique? Well, punk is so unique because it just kind of came into existence one day. It became an all-inclusive subculture and social movement. Every fight for racial equality and recognition all piled into one term most people can agree with. Originating from a derogatory term for people like me and others in the community, it was turned into a badge of honor and inclusion. Now, meanwhile, Pride is nowhere close to new. Pride started in the late 1960s, specifically 1969, which saw the first flag raised with just the rainbow and pink. Since then, Pride has aged and grown to be more and more inclusive, taking on the rights and the fights of older countercultures and to their values. This is best shown in the progression flag here. Now, when it comes to norms and the POC community, freedom of expression is valued, but that doesn't mean you're allowed to say anything you want. Remember, if you have the freedom of expression, speech, and will, so does everyone else. Consequences will always follow your actions. Disbelief in the government is heavily rooted in the POC community, since it was rooted in all of the people that came together to make it. It's no wonder people who face governmental and police brutality will not like the police or the government. Over everything else. Well, Aretha Franklin sums it up best. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It's all about respect. Pride has a lot of these norms built into them, as well with the added fact of asking pronouns in introductions. This action may seem pointless at first, but it's actually deep-rooted in individual respect. Yet, they always aren't treated the best, or even fairly. So, heavy tolerance is another common norm here. Those who are highly educated, or educated at all, will often have no issue in explaining anything to you, since this group's number one op is ignorance. Not ignorant people, ignorance as the concept. Stereotypes. We've all heard them, especially when it comes to minorities. So let's touch up on some of the most famous ones. African Americans all love watermelon and chicken. Asians eat pets. Hispanics and Latinos are the same thing, and all of them are border hopping immigrants. Muslims are terrorists. And who can forget what all of us in this community hear at least once in our lives? They're criminals. They're violent. They're dangerous. This is to say that Pride doesn't quite have it easy either. From bisexuals being told that they're just going through a phase and soon enough they'll have to pick. Ace and ARO people getting told that they just haven't found the right one yet. And if you're gay, now you're effeminate. And if you were gay when you were in school, or even now, I'm sure you've heard, I don't think we can be friends anymore. I don't like guys, and I don't want you coming on to me. As if anyone ever would. Lesbians are rude, mean, and always masculine. And yes, the infamous. Trans people are pedophiles and rapists. So yeah, If you're queer, you get to hear, they're just going through a phase. They're predators. They're dangerous. Now, would you look at that? It seems these two subcultures aren't all that different after all. But it's important to note that yet they are still different. For example, people of color are still facing the same issues that they have been since slavery and segregation were illegalized. Systemic racism. See, many parts of our modern society have these little tiny things called microaggressions placed all over for us, for all kinds of people of color. Not only that, but you'll find the higher ups of society still attempt to split up this unified movement, since there is power in numbers and they're afraid of that. Now, pride does have a bit of a common enemy, that being religion, specifically monotheistic religions, since these are the main religions in America and they demonize homosexuality and all that go along with it to be wrong, sinful, and immoral, which often leads to hate crimes, hate speech, and biased laws. Remember that laws are made, passed, and enforced by the majority. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Now, I want to bring up that only 30% of the American population is a person of color, and that as of the current, POC imprisonment representation is 60% of all inmates. In other words, 60% of all inmates in prison in America are POC, when only 30% of them actually represent the entire population. Or another interesting fact. Did you know that a 2018 study found that in New York City, 88% of all police stops were people of color, and only 10% of them were white. Yet 70% of all of the POC stops were innocent stops. And then there's code switching. Code switching is a sort of social chameleonism, where you pretty much cover your accent or speech or even entire look. And if you were to go into, let's say, Park High School, for example, I can guarantee that every single one of them will say that they've done it before, either for safety or to get an opportunity they wouldn't have otherwise. Pride also has some fun facts. Like, did you know that every single color actually represents something? As you can see here. So, no, the colors aren't meaningless. The colors of the flag are actually quite meaningful. Or perhaps you want to know about the fact that homosexual men are still being blamed for the AIDS epidemic. Have we not proved this enough? But hey, at least it's not as bad as when it started, when AIDS was known as GRID, or gay-related immune deficiency. Or you want to know about the fact that conversion camps and conversion therapy have still yet to be nationwide banned. These fundamental hate groups specifically targeting minors. So yes, even these two subcultures need some work in society. And I'm sure soon they might turn into countercultures again. But until then, let's hope we can make things better for the both of them that I've mentioned and all subcultures, as all of them together entail all of society and what's soon to be its future.